Hi, I'm Dr. Scott Conkright. What if your body is holding memories your mind can't access? We explore how early relationships shape your nervous system and how healing begins through relationship, not just insight. Tune in now. Your body has something to say. Some stories aren't broken, they were never allowed to finish. That's what trauma does. It interrupts the story. And what healing asks of us is not to forget, but to return, to stay with enough safety to complete the arc. This is narrative repair. But it's not about rewriting the facts, it's about refeeling the feelings, and this time with enough support, self awareness, and coherence to metabolize them. Not alone, not all at once, but piece by piece through time in relationship. Coherence isn't when everything makes sense. It's when you can feel what happened and still stay with yourself. A person who was once ashamed of crying during conflict learns to say, I wasn't weak. I was overwhelmed and no one helped. A person who dissociated through years of rejection and abuse says, I went numb because staying present was unbearable. A person who built a life around perfection says, I wasn't performing. I was trying to earn safety. In art, narrative repair is not a mental exercise. It is affective integration. It is reintegration of the body, memory, affect, and relational meaning. And that begins not with language, but with slowing down enough to feel again, only differently. The same memory once haunted you. Now it arises and you stay grounded. The same trigger used to flood you. Now, it opens curiosity. The same story used to make you collapse, but now it invites compassion. This is not denial, this is differentiation. The event is still what it was, but you are no longer only who you were when it happened. You have more capacity now. You have context. You have language. You have a nervous system with more room to spare. Maybe not every day. Maybe not every not maybe not for every memory, but enough. And with enough, repair begins. Not a fix, a reweaving. Because coherence isn't about making everything pretty, it's about making it yours. Even the pain, especially the pain. Ownership doesn't mean you asked for it, it means you get to decide what it means now. And when meaning shift, so does memory. Not the facts, but the feelings of those facts inside you. You can look back on your story and feel not just sorrow, but agency. Not just confusion, but clarity. Not just grief, but grace. That's narrative repair. And it changes everything. Because once you realize you can feel something different about the past, you begin to imagine something different for your future. You begin to sense this is not the end of the story. This is where I started telling it. You didn't choose your shame script, it was handed to you, folded into facial expressions, woven into silence, implied by commercials, reinforced by classroom rules and family rituals. You didn't write it, but over time, you rehearsed it. And now it lives in the pauses between your words, the flinch before asking for help, the tight smile when you want to cry. However, shame scripts don't just reside in your thoughts, they also reside in our bodies. They reside in our dynamic vitality affects. Shame is not just a feeling, it's a framework, and it shapes not only how you see yourself, but how you hold yourself, how you move through space, how you make yourself smaller in groups, how you collapse subtly when receiving praise, how you smile automatically to cover distress. These embodied patterns were learned in relationships, often as adaptations to environments that couldn't hold our full emotional range. The way we were looked at when we expressed joy, the silence that followed our anger, the turning away when we showed need. The praise came only when we performed. Our bodies absorbed these lessons and translated them into DVAs, ways of being that helped us survive our early relational world, but may no longer serve us. The cultural shame script teaches us to edit our embodied presence. Don't take up too much space, so we make ourselves smaller. Don't be too much, so we dim our energy. Don't let them see that, so we hide our automatic smiles. Don't feel proud, that's arrogant, so we deflect compliments with self deprecation. Don't get hurt, that's weak, so we brace against tenderness. Don't speak if you're not sure you are right, so we soften our voices into questioning tones even when we're certain. And you listen, because shame, unlike fear or anger, hides inside the story of who you are. It's not just something bad happened, it's something bad means something bad about me. And that something about me gets encoded not just in belief, but in breath, posture, gaze, and gesture. In art, shame is understood as the affect that interrupts positive experience. Joy gets halted, interest collapses, pride is swallowed, and in its place, a sense of exposure takes root. That exposure of wanting, needing, failing, glowing becomes the danger. But here's the twist. Much of the shame isn't personal. It's cultural affect. We live in a system that sells us idealized versions of ourselves, bodies that don't age, relationships that never rupture, hustle without burnout, masculinity without emotion, femininity without anger, productivity without pause, visibility without vulnerability. It teaches us that feeling intensely is indulgent, that emotional nuance is weakness, that certainty is power, that success is coherence without contradiction. So when you feel messy, ambivalent, or undone, you assume something's wrong with you. Your body learns to contract around these unacceptable states. Your DVAs become scripts for hiding rather than expressing. In reality, something is wrong with the lens. That's the cultural shame script, and it's everywhere. In the way we automatically lower our voices when expressing enthusiasm, in the way we hunch our shoulders when taking up space, in the way that we avert our gaze when receiving genuine appreciation, and in the way we speed up our speech when sharing something vulnerable. These aren't necessarily conscious choices, they're embodied adaptations to cultural messages about what kinds of feelings and expressions are acceptable. In the therapeutic situation, we often, or at least I do, refer to this as internalized oppression. In art, it's understood as a mismatch between felt affect and accepted expression. The body still knows what it needs, but the cultural code says suppress it, edit it, translate it, or numb it. Over time, we complied, not out of agreement, but out of fatigue. Our DVAs become increasingly conservative, designed more for safety than for authentic expression. So, how do we rewrite that script? We start by naming it. That's always the first move. This isn't my voice. This isn't how I would speak to someone I love. This shame feels inherited, not earned. When did I learn this way of holding myself? Then we begin to notice when shame shows up, not just in the big moments of failure, but in the small acts of embodied contradiction. The deflection of a compliment through a change in posture, the apology for taking time, accompanied by a shrinking of presence. The hesitation to say no, marked by a softening of voice and a turning away of the body. We learn to ask, what positive experience is being blocked here? What part of me is trying to come forward, and why is my body pulling back? What would it feel like to stay upright in this moment? What would happen if I didn't dim my energy right now? Cultural healing requires more than insight. It requires interoceptive awareness that can recognize when a cultural script is hijacking our embodied authenticity. Only then can we begin to choreograph our own presence. And eventually, we learn to reauthor, not with defiance necessarily, but with self permission. Permission to stay bright when complimented rather than dimming. Permission to take up space when speaking rather than contracting. Permission to let our voices carry weight rather than softening into questions. Permission to let joy move through us visibly rather than containing it. Permission to show our edges when angry rather than smoothing them away. Permission to rest without apologizing through our posture. The cultural script will still be there, but so will your own. And the more you live from it, not just think from it, but embody it, the stronger it becomes. This is how we move from being cast in a story to becoming its writer. Not by denying the culture we live in, but by choosing what we bring back to life. Not just in our thoughts, but in our breath, our stance, our gaze, our gesture. Not by thinking our way out of shame, but by feeling our way back into authentic, embodied presence. Because the revolution isn't just cognitive, it's somatic. It's the way you hold yourself when you walk into a room, the way you let your voice carry your truth, the way you allow your face to show what you actually feel. It's DVAs that serve our authentic expression rather than cultural expectations. It's the quiet courage to let your body tell your real story. We began this journey as small mammals with big feelings and no way to handle them on our own. No story, no strategy, just the immediacy of sensation. Hot, cold, startled, soothed. But we were never meant to stay there. We were built to grow, not just taller or smarter, but more attuned, more able to sense, to stay, to choose, and more able to take the raw data of affect and turn it into meaning. This is the purpose of the feeling mind, not just to warn us of a threat, but to guide us towards coherence, to shape a life that feels lived in from the inside out. That means the mind doesn't sit on top of the body. It emerges from it, not just from logic, but from sensation, from memory, from the long, recursive dance between what we feel and what we remember and what we make of it and how we choose to live forward. The feeling mind is the bridge between affect and authorship. It's how we learn that sadness isn't just pain, it's longing. That anger isn't just a threat, it's a boundary. That joy isn't just pleasure, it's recognition. That shame isn't failure, it's the signal that something inside us still longs to connect. And when we begin to feel with instead of against ourselves, something sacred happens. Life stops becoming a performance. It starts becoming a practice, not of perfection, but of presence, of noticing, of staying, of narrating. Because meaning is not something we discover in the world, it's something we co create moment moment by how we interpret the raw materials of affect, memory, sensation, and story. This is the work of late adolescence, not youth, not old age, but the emergence of emotional authorship, where you are no longer just the one who was shaped. You are now the one who shapes, where your first script does not dictate your story, but is revised by your present capacity to feel with awareness, to grade affect, to recognize signal, to stay in contact, and to choose what matters most. Meaning is not something we figure out, it's something we feel our way into. That's the secret of the feeling mind. It doesn't solve life like a puzzle, it animates life like a song. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to be willing to feel the questions and let your body, your breath, your memory, and your meaning meet in the space where your story takes shape. This has been The Feeling Mind. Thank you for sitting with me at the cosmic table. And remember, your life is not a problem to solve, it's a feeling to follow. So be sure to subscribe and follow along. And if you're curious where you are on your own growth journey, take the free self-discovery snapshot at scottconkright.com. You can also join our newsletter for weekly insights and learn about upcoming therapy groups, meetups, and live workshops. Until next time, be kind to the part of you that felt everything first.